Hello, everyone. This is Ali Hussein, your host for AliTalksTech. Today, I am super privileged to have as my guest Eric Muriuki.
Pleasure.
Eric, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Great. So Eric is the CEO for Loop DFS Limited. And for those of you who may not know, one of the key reasons we're here today is because of the launch of the new Loop and the lessons around that. But I think I'm also going to take, Eric, if you allow me, I'm going to take this opportunity to also sort of delve a bit deeper behind the mechanics, the company that is behind Loop. So, Eric, karibu sana.
Asante.
Welcome, and I want to say thank you for accepting my invitation under such short notice. I know you've left a super interesting meeting back at the office. But let's delve straight into it, Eric. One of the key reasons we're here today is the launch of the new Loop app and the cry out that has happened because of the launch. Now, first things first, the communication that came out, I think for me, it is something that brands must learn to communicate, which is great. I think you did the right thing to communicate to us and tell us, guys, we're going to be down from Saturday night to Monday morning.
Yes.
So at least you manage people's expectations. People may not be happy about it, but at least they've been informed instead of just waiting and then the app is down. You can't do nothing about it. But then Monday morning comes and we have glitches. And we have then, the app was up and running by end of day Monday. But then you have these humongous conversations on social media, guys who have been using Loop for years saying, what is this? What is going on here? And one guy, I saw a very interesting blog about it. The guy said he's been using Loop for years and he's been an evangelist of Loop and he's totally unhappy about it. Which reminds me of a conversation that Steve Jobs once said. Sometimes customers don't know what they want. Eric, over to you. What are your comments about that?
First, thank you very much, Ali.
Welcome.
It's quite a privilege. I gather your first guest for Ali Talks.
Yes, you are. This year.
For your podcast this year.
Yes, for my podcast this year.
Yes, it's always great to do new things in January. I think straight to the point, I will start by taking this opportunity to speak to our customers.
Yes.
Customers that have been with us for over 4 years since we started Loop. We have customers who have embraced Loop as their beginning and end of how they manage their monies or consume financial services. And we have taken them through some pain in the last 48 or I would say 72 hours. One, I want to maybe just speak on behalf of my colleagues to express that we did everything possible to try and ensure that the change window was as narrow as possible.
Okay.
Now, I do acknowledge that a change of that customers are typically accustomed to should rarely exceed 6 hours. We also have been doing this when we're running other services, maybe just to also let the public know the team that is running Loop is also the same team that is running Mshwari, is the same team that is running Fuliza. So we have the experience of managing significant platforms.
I think that is important for people to appreciate and understand. Thank you for that, Eric.
Yeah, so we however, with Loop this time around, as I shall be unpacking when we do get to speak to our vision and what we're trying to do with this brand, we were not just making an update to the technology. We were actually not even a root and branch change. We were actually planting a completely new tree.
Okay.
So we did not have the opportunity of having a very narrow change window. So it had to take the time that it needed to take.
Eric, could you unpack that for my listeners and viewers?
Okay.
When you're talking about from a tech perspective,
Yes.
when you're talking about planting a new tree as
Yes.
opposed to probably grafting.
Yes. Thank you for guiding me there. I think it's important to explain to our customers that
Yes.
Loop, for the last 4 years,
Correct.
has been a digital banking service. And when we launched Loop, I think there was a lot of, what is this? There was quite a bit of novelty with regards to how we had executed banking. We had digitized pretty much every flow that a customer engages with their bank, of course, except the KYC process, which required one to come into one of the Loop stores for various.
That was the old Loop.
The old Loop for various
I remember.
technical
I did
and
that.
regulatory.
I did that myself.
Yes. But you recall at the time when we launched Loop in 2018-19, a lot of customers really struggled with understanding this new way of engaging with a bank.
That's true.
But progressively, these customers have come to learn, have come to appreciate, and also co-created. We take a lot of input in how we develop our services from our contact center. It actually drives the product backlog prioritization.
Okay.
So the top 2 issues at our contact center, that's the priority for this week. That's how we continue to develop the services and get to ensure that product development and to a great extent innovation is actually not just customer centric, where the customer is at the center, but rather customer driven, where the product follows the direction of the customer. Slight nuance, but it's very important.
Is critical.
Yes.
In terms of how you move your product journey forward.
Correct.
Okay.
But let me come back to why I used the analogy of it's not a root and branch change you're making.
Correct.
Because you're more of grafting around the same tree.
Yes.
We are pivoting the Loop brand from banking to what we call a digital platform.
Okay.
And I'll be unpacking that. Essentially, Loop going forward is no longer a banking service,
Okay.
but a platform upon which banking also happens. And very intentionally, I say also happens because the primary activity on Loop is not going to be banking. But on Loop, you will be able to host your bank account.
Okay.
And what we are also introducing, customers have seen that you now have a payment account
Okay.
and a bank account.
Correct.
Without getting too legal,
Yes.
if you read the Banking Act and the Payment Act, which the Payment Act is what regulates services like mobile money.
Yes. The payment service providers.
Yes, all payment service providers. The legal definition of your mobile money wallet is actually a payment account.
Correct.
And it has, unlike your bank account, it has certain restrictions. You cannot transfer more than 150,000 Kenya shillings. You cannot hold a balance of more than 300,000 shillings.
Okay.
And it also has a slightly lower KYC threshold in terms of the documentation you're required to present.
Correct.
For a payment account, you just need your ID number and a photo of yourself and a photo of your ID. That's it.
Okay.
But with a bank account, you need to present a bit more information, and particularly with the latest revision of the Banking Act, you also need to present a KRA PIN.
Yes.
So what we've done on the platform is to say, okay, there is a platform called Loop.
Okay.
On this platform, you have a payment account that behaves very much, or 100% and even more, like a mobile money service.
Okay.
Or wallet. That's a payment account.
Yes.
And on Loop, you also have a bank account that does everything a bank account does. So not just to send money to within the bank, to other banks, to send money through SWIFT to banks outside of the country.
Okay.
So then that's a full bank account that can do anything and everything that a bank account can do with no restriction on the balance that you're holding, no restriction on the amounts that you're transferring per single transaction. But then the platform offers to both of these two artifacts, your payment account and your bank account, then the layer of technology, the layer of security.
Changes.
Yes, exactly.
So
those are the core services.
So basically a banking account on steroids.
No. Allow me to say that.
Please.
Maybe before we get to that,
Okay.
I want to first and properly apologize to our customers.
Okay.
That is where we started.
That is important.
Yeah.
That is important.
We are making a shift from banking to a platform which the technology is completely new. The authentication mechanisms are completely new. The integration technology is completely new. So all of the layers of the technology stack are not shared in any way. But one has to ensure a safe transition of customer records from the old technology stack to the new technology stack. And I'll say financial services, or you choose your financial service provider because of one thing, not price or anything else, but trust.
Trust.
So we had to
Trust
ensure
is core.
Yes, that process is as safe and as seamless as possible. And hence the need for the 36 hours to ensure that everything you do on Loop with regards to payments, taking of loans, saving, and everything is transitioned seamlessly. And I can confirm that to date we have no complaint from customers with regards to how their records were transitioned.
I can confirm that myself because I'm a Loop customer.
Thank you.
I have been a Loop customer from literally the beginning.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah. Okay, so
the other thing I also want to apologize is we had committed to customers that we shall have completed the transition by 9 a.m.
9 a.m. on Monday morning.
And that, unfortunately, took an additional 2 hours. So we want to also apologize for that extension. We tried to communicate as soon as we realized that the process, particularly with regards to just completing the quality control activities, was needing to take a little bit longer because we found some things that were of interest to us that we wanted to be double sure about. So we did open up the service at the time, 11 a.m. And again, specifically to our Android users, we suffered a case of success. Within the first 1 hour, we breached a threshold that is set by Google's Play Store on the number of users that were needing to
concurrently.
Online. So they have a threshold that is capped per day. And in the first 1 hour, we breached that. We exceeded.
Do you mind telling us what that threshold is?
So essentially, each time you are coming onto a secure platform, at the operating system level, there's a need to what we call attestation to confirm that this device is bound to this user ID and password.
I see. I get you.
Okay?
I get you.
And to ensure that once that binding is done, then all downstream transactions, we can be sure that this user ID and this device belong to the same person. And that calls up a service that is offered on the Google Play Store.
Okay.
And also just make sure that the code that is downloaded on that device is also secure. So security is a very important aspect. Now, the APIs that Google has made available to everyone have a maximum number of API calls per day. We breached that in the first hour.
For each customer?
Yes, API calls.
Okay.
Not necessarily to a particular customer.
Yes.
The solution that Google offers for this is a different API that they just published. So the period it took for us to reopen the service fully to the market was, of course, now coming back to change our APIs to the new API. But that was quick. But to contact Google and ensure that what takes them 48 hours,
Yes.
they do it for us as soon as possible.
Yes.
We spent more time looking for the right persons.
Wow.
So I really,
Wow.
really apologize for that. And
Yes.
a lot of our customers can confirm that starting Tuesday, we have not had any such issues. And also the iOS users who Apple has a different approach to
Yes.
how they do device attestation.
Uh-huh.
The Apple users had no issues whatsoever.
So these two platforms,
Yes.
that's why the iOS guys
Had no problem.
had no problem.
Yes, and the Android users,
The Android
were struggling
users.
those that got in before.
I hope there is a Googler listening in to this conversation.
Yes.
So, Eric, I think that's a great introduction. And I think I always say that in tech, as in human beings, things can go wrong.
Yeah.
I think in reference to Murphy's Law, what can go wrong will go wrong.
Yes.
But let's accept that. Let's park that for 1 minute.
Okay.
And let's listen to some of the users who have been with Loop for quite a number of years. Specifically, two of them who've been extremely vocal. I shall not mention their names, but one of them has written a blog which you and I have read. One of them talked about it on my LinkedIn page. And basically, the gist of both of them were like, come on, guys. Who told you we wanted all this stuff? We loved the old Loop. We were clear on the customer journeys and how we access the different services on the app. And now you bring us this new app and we don't know where is what. What do you have to tell them? What do you have to say to them?
Yes. So,
By the way, for me as a user and as somebody who's used Loop for years, I've been extremely intrigued about it. So my reaction is different to them. But I want you to sort of respond to them. I think it's important.
yes, we've received a lot of critical review.
Yes.
And feedback. Some
Yes.
of them very specific.
Yes.
Change this, change that.
Yes.
Actually, I'm very appreciative of those users that have taken the time to unpack what it is that they like and what it is that they don't appreciate with the change that we've made. And there's lessons from both
Both
types,
sides.
both types of feedback. We certainly did not set out to
Annoy customers.
give a masterclass on how to annoy customers. We shall be talking to what our thinking is
Yes.
and what our intentions are with that pivot from banking to platform. But there's always the dilemma of how fast should you execute change when dealing with customers. Certainly, a market is not monolithic. There is very many different profiles of customers with different attitudes to even things like color, with different ways of perceiving or intuiting their way through an app. And we certainly have got some things right, and we've gotten some things not so right. And we're grateful that we are getting that feedback. I think the thing I really would want to assure customers is we are customer-led. We're not just a company that says customer-centric, but the
Yes.
customer has no
Yes.
influence. The customer greatly influences the development and design and development of Loop. And you'll be seeing changes. We have a 2-week release cycle. Every 2 weeks, you'll be seeing continuous
Changes.
improvements and integration of the feedback we're getting from customers. Speaking first to the most obvious, color.
Yes.
We moved from a very genteel teal color.
Correct.
Men struggle with colors. Some have called it green, blue, but we've moved from a very different palette of colors with the old Loop to a very energetic orange.
Okay.
And there's questions to, is that the color for financial services?
Yes.
I've been in financial services 22 years, and I've seen that transition where all banks wanted to be blue.
Blue.
And moving on, green began being assimilated.
Eric, what's with blue and banking?
I think we have to see how cultures evolve. And
Correct.
Particularly the banking model is very Western-centric from a cultural influence.
Correct.
And blue is not a color you actually see in Africa.
Yes.
Very rarely.
Yes.
But somehow, even in Africa, blue has come to represent...
We've sort of assimilated it.
Yes. But we've seen financial services brands adopt red. We've seen financial services brands adopt green.
Correct.
And even non-banks make green be the color of... do I say digital money? So
let's talk about the energetic orange. I love that depiction of orange, energetic orange. So why the choice of energetic orange?
Because as I said earlier, and forgive me that I'll keep repeating this, we're pivoting from banking to platform. Now, what is a platform?
Yes.
The best way to describe a platform is essentially like a marketplace, or to speak to something that more of our users will relate to. Try and imagine a digital mall.
Yes.
In that digital mall, there is typically an anchor client, in most cases a supermarket, if it's a mall. There is a food court.
Yes.
There is a section where banks and ATMs are clustered together. So a mall or a digital mall is typically a marketplace where buyers and sellers come to meet. Now, when we speak of digital platforms, and in our case, coming from the financial services world, what we are building with Loop is a digital mall.
Okay.
The first and most important purpose for us to serve is to provide what are the platform services. How do customers come in securely? How do customers, quote unquote, park their car?
Okay.
How do customers perform their most common transaction? If you're going to a mall, it's typically a supermarket or the food court. Now, if you're coming to a digital financial services platform, what is the equivalent of that everyday transaction? It is actually facilitating payments. Now, those payments, what we are now extending is to say you can pay off a payment account, or you can pay off a bank account. These two offered by Loop. We also have extended it further to say...
And you've tightly integrated those two?
Yes. Now, we'll speak about UI UX.
Yes.
But the most important job or message I needed to bring out is what is a payment account? What is a bank account?
Correct.
What are they both doing on a platform? Because...
On the same platform?
Yes, on the same platform. So essentially, with your payment account or your bank account, you then choose where you want to pay from. Okay. Depending on the profile of payment. Same way you go to a mall, you'll pay for parking with cash. You'll swipe your debit card at the food court. But when you go to buy the fridge, you want to swipe your credit card. So you have different pockets for hosting your various balances. Okay. What Loop also is enabling customers to do is to say, you come in not only with your account from one bank, you might have another bank account, you might have a credit card from even another bank. So Loop will also enable customers to link cards issued from other banks onto the Loop wallet.
So something like Apple Pay?
Something like Apple Pay and then some.
Okay.
And I'll explain.
Okay.
So I don't know if you have your wallet here with you. Do you still carry your wallet?
I carry my wallet.
Yes.
My physical wallet.
Yes, your physical wallet.
I still carry my physical wallet because somehow the memo has not reached some billers that we can pay via M-Pesa.
If you permit me.
Yes, please.
This is a wallet.
Yes.
The pocket inside here,
yes,
where you hold cash, is not the wallet. The wallet is the whole of this.
Correct.
Since we have not signed a data protection clause, I'll not open your wallet.
You can open. I give you the
Thank you. The consent.
The consent to
So
open.
in your wallet, you have identity documents.
Yes.
You have bank cards.
Yes. I have my daughter's
You have
pictures.
a photo of your loved ones.
Yes.
And you also have a bit of cash.
Yes.
Because there are some use cases where cash is still relevant.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I love to do when I'm giving tips, I love to do it in cash.
Cash. Correct.
I'm an African.
Yes.
I want that person to feel
that they received it from
that
me.
they received it. It's just not the same to do tips with,
Exactly.
I don't know. It is what it is.
So if we come back to this, when we say what the market has gotten accustomed to with regards to wallet,
Yes.
they actually mean just that pocket
That's
where
true.
there is cash.
That's true.
They don't mean where you put your cards, where you hold your
They
IDs.
don't mean the whole edifice.
Exactly.
Yes.
So one thing we are doing different with Loop
Yes.
is to say, okay, let's do a more comprehensive execution
Of the wallet.
of a digital wallet.
Okay.
Now, we recognize, now speaking to some of the challenges our customers have had,
Yes.
we recognize that that is a different approach to what the market knows
Yes.
as a wallet.
Yes.
Now, it takes good design to ensure that that difference is intuitive to the customer.
Correct.
And we certainly have received feedback that points us to where we need to improve. And I think, as I was pointing out earlier, that is actually a priority area for us.
Okay.
And in the next 2 weeks, you'll
Okay.
be seeing a different execution of that user interface. In your wallet, when you want to pay, you want to know how much you have.
Correct.
So you either count the cash,
Yes.
but you don't know how much you have in the cards,
No, you don't.
or at least you have
You
a sense
don't.
of.
Correct. Correct.
So we will also, the wallet, unlike what customers know about wallets today, which only have one balance, you'll have multiple balances that are visible to you depending on which one you're checking.
Okay.
So it then makes it a little bit different, not harder, to execute. I want to quickly see my balance. But your wallet has multiple balances.
Uh-huh.
Do you get me?
Uh-huh.
So yes, that at least speaks to the intent. Certainly customers have told us, okay, improve
So
this.
that's the reason why you
Thank you.
have not done what you used to do in the old Loop, where
which
the
had
minute-
one balance.
The minute I open, it has one balance.
Correct. Or if you look at, say, most other digital financial services app are anchored around one store of value.
Correct.
We are saying this is a platform that first presents you with a wallet. In that wallet, you can have a payment account, bank account, and you can also link multiple cards.
So in a nutshell, Eric, what you're telling your customers, including myself, is that, guys, can we move on with the times a little bit? We are giving you an opportunity in one platform to have a look at, to have visibility of all
Your payment
your
instruments.
payment instruments
Yes.
and your bank accounts through your card system.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
That's what we're saying. And I recognize user interface design is certainly a practice that is both art and science. And
It's
we're
also an acquired taste. Let
Yes.
us also accept that
Yes,
and
yes,
agree,
yes.
because my optimal user interface may not be yours,
correct.
but I may learn
Yes.
to accept and to be taught how to use, especially a product this new. Could
Correct.
you?
I'll agree with that. And maybe we can speak about some products. If I speak to, say, WhatsApp, Telegram has far more features
Oh,
than
absolutely.
WhatsApp, or at least launches new features
Absolutely.
ahead of WhatsApp.
Absolutely.
But WhatsApp seems to have gotten intuition right. Of course, they have the benefit of the Facebook ecosystem in customer acquisition.
Yeah.
But even though we are from different cultures,
Yes.
intuition is human. It has cultural influence. So you can design certain signals.
There is some homogeneity
Correct.
across the world
Yes.
as far as that is concerned.
And
I would agree.
Yes, and why I say we acknowledge we are somewhere along that learning curve is because we first are breaking away from banking, a very standard, traditional problem to solve.
I'll come to that. I have a specific question on that breaking away from banking and what those lessons are. But let me let you finish.
Thank you.
Your train of thought.
Yes. So we are designing Loop as a Pan-African platform. So we must get design right in such a way that a user in
Nigeria, Abidjan,
and a user
South
in
Africa.
Addis Ababa is able to interact it with the exact same way as a user in Dar es Salaam or a user in Kinshasa. Because these are all the markets that we want to take Loop to. And because WhatsApp have done it in multiple languages, across multiple cultures, that is our design problem statement. And we love the fact that we are from Kenya, because the one thing I've come to appreciate in this, my 20 years, 2 decades
Yes.
in financial services,
Yes.
there isn't a customer that has a better nose for utility and design of digital financial services better than the Kenyan customer.
Interesting.
And that you can, pun intended, you can take that to the bank.
To the bank.
Because we've seen other fintechs come into Kenya
Yes.
to run pilots. Once they get feedback from the Kenyan market,
Then they roll out.
you see them launching in Indonesia or
That's
in
true.
South America. And
That's
so on.
actually true.
So there is an advantage we have by designing and developing from Kenya. So, and it is for that reason we take this feedback that we have received
More seriously.
very, very seriously, because we know it's this feedback that will get us to be appropriate for Africa. Yeah.
Interesting. Eric, thank you so much. I think this is quite insightful. Now, before we go into other matters, I know we probably have another 20 minutes. I would like you to respond to the issue of communication in terms of the change management. I mean, look, we're talking about a humongous change.
Yeah.
In retrospect,
Yes.
how would you have done it? Getting all these responses from your customers, from your hardcore customers. I mean, there was a guy I read who said, "Guy, I have used," almost like he owns the app himself. "I've used this app for 5 years. I have made every member of my family use it. Now you've made this change. You've lost me completely." How would you have handled communicating to your customers about this change? Because I think therein probably lies your biggest issue.
Yeah. So maybe I'll start
Yes.
a couple of steps back.
Yes.
So we have been at this design and development process for about 18 months,
Okay.
longer than we thought.
Okay.
In those 18 months, when validating whether this is something that needs to be done, is this something relevant,
Okay.
we spoke to customers,
Okay.
existing customers and customers who are not even our users.
Okay.
Okay.
New potential customers.
Exactly. Second, when we started developing the product user journeys, we also did involve customers. When we went into brand strategy development and the designing and developing the brand, we also did speak to real users, both
Okay.
existing users and non-users. So the what has informed the development of what we've launched today,
Yes.
at least I can assure, was customer-led. It's a bit like when you see the polls and you see their sample size was 800
Yes.
to poll a country of 50 million.
That's true.
But at least we spoke to the right level, in terms of number of customers.
You did the right sample.
Yes.
As
got the
far
right
as you
samples.
guys...
Yes.
You did the right sample.
Correct.
Okay.
And also to try and ask ourselves, who do we believe is the core of the Loop customer?
Yes.
The target, the one that we have today, and the one that we are also looking to grow to, because we are looking to expand to a much larger audience. Who are the early adopters? The early adopters will have different views to the core customers. So we took time to speak to customers.
That's true.
Then, of course, the communication about the technical crossover. Now, this past weekend, I do believe we did try to communicate to customers well enough. If you've been looking at our social media platforms or IG, the signaling of the orange probably started about 2 months ago.
Okay.
If you look at our IG pages, you see there's a far greater shift towards the orange.
But to your mass market, to the public at large, did you hint about this major replatforming, as you would call it?
Yes, but more from a PR point of view.
More from a PR
I think you'll appreciate we were birthed from within NCBA Bank.
Okay. Yes, of course.
So that is a platform at the time that we had for communicating. Today we can communicate as Loop DFS Limited.
Yes.
And from a PR point of view, those signaling to the market that there is this intended shift, there is this intended pivot of business strategy from banking to platform. Of course, we did not fully disclose the brand, but that we had started signaling, as I stated earlier. The change itself, we communicated to customers.
Yes.
They had signaled back to us that we had given them sufficient time.
Okay.
But of course,
it's not 100%.
Yes, it's not 100%.
It's not 100%.
Then the question of, should we have piloted first, then bring the rest of the market later? And that is always a door that swings both ways.
Yeah.
Because what was the priority that we set is to learn as fast as possible.
Correct.
So if you slow down how you engage the market, then the lessons also come in drips.
So what's your message?
So our message is we elected the route of learning as fast as possible and preparing ourselves to be able to integrate those lessons as quickly as possible. And starting from, I believe, around 6th of February is when the next release is coming out. Customers that have engaged
6th of
us,
February.
Customers that have engaged us will actually see very intentional alignments of the user experience, the user interactions to the feedback that they're giving us. And as I'll keep saying, we are privileged to be operating from Kenya. Yeah, the Kenyan user for digital financial services is the best that any product innovator would want to work with.
Look, Eric, as far as the product itself is concerned, because now I want us to go into the company itself and your plans. For me, my most important take home here today is that you eat your breakfast. What do I mean by that? Because feedback is the breakfast of champions. And it seems that you eat your breakfast every day. So I think one of the most important take homes for me is that you, as the CEO of Loop DFS, is open to these conversations.
Oh, yes.
You are not, you are literally rolling with the punches. You are, for me, I was pleasantly surprised to say that you very quickly accepted to come and have a conversation with me, knowing that it's going to be a tough conversation. I want to congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
And I want to say that you must keep that door open for that conversation.
Ali, one of the things we are thinking about,
Yes.
when you see most platforms,
Yes.
they provide developer platforms or developer portals,
correct.
where if as a developer you want to add more utility onto the platform, you're able to come integrate to a developer portal and build on top of the platform. Remember the mall concept. We also are now thinking, how do we, in the design process, create a user portal?
Nice.
So that a lot of the feedback we are getting is integrated into the design and development flows, but in ways that allow
would definitely be
for
an interesting one.
Development. It's a different approach. But I think what we've shown is that we are willing to dare. We're willing to try something if we believe that this is a direction that will add value.
Great, Eric. Now that we've dispensed with the kahawa tungu.
Yes. Thank you.
Let's for a minute speak about your big, hairy, audacious goals for Africa, your BHAG. You and I had a brief conversation about this yesterday. And you sort of alluded to it. Loop is a Pan-African product. I had the privilege of reading your investor briefing of sometime late last year.
Q3.
Q3. And there was clarity in that. Would you maybe in less than 5 minutes just give us your sort of elevator pitch on where Loop DFS is going from a Pan-African perspective?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak now, not just to users, but also just every other stakeholder in the space I call digital financial services. I think the way I want to tackle this is to start first with the familiar. Kenya is known for being the greatest exporter, at least in Africa, of tea, number 3 in the world, second only to, I think, China and Sri Lanka. Our top 3 exports, basically tea, coffee, and horticulture. And I always ask, how were these industries created? So that today, tea, I think 2022, tea generated in terms of export value, about 120 billion Kenya shillings. Horticulture came second at about 160 billion for tea, 120 for horticulture, and about 40 billion for coffee. But you have to ask yourself, if you come from a tea growing area or a coffee growing area, who created the industry? How do they think about laying the foundations for it, the seedlings, the inputs, the extension services, where field officers come to train farmers, the market infrastructure, the
whole
auction,
ecosystem,
Somebody did it.
Deliberately.
And because of that, today, there is very large enterprises in Kenya around those ecosystems called tea and coffee and horticulture. Horticulture particularly, I would say, its greatest development has happened in my lifetime. I've seen horticulture develop from scratch, and unlike tea and coffee, which were very central government-led, these were driven more by business. And then government came to realize that this can be a significant FX contributor
to the country.
Why have I started there? Is because what we are doing with Loop is what was done by the guys who planted the first seedlings of coffee in Kenya.
Explain that.
We are building a digital financial services ecosystem with a view for it being a major FX earner for the country. So we cannot build with a view of Kenya only. We need, of course, to win in our home market. But the market for us, at a minimum, is Africa. For a business that is anchored in Kenya. Now, when you approach it from an ecosystem perspective, it then means any developer that gets onto our platform, we then provide the rails for them to develop a service for a user in Lagos.
Interesting.
So there will be a whole ecosystem that will be developing around Loop beyond just the service that we are talking about, to see that other Kenyan businesses that are either our suppliers, either our partners, including media, because as we've recognized, communication is our biggest challenge.
True.
We need to create not just UI UX, but also create content.
Yeah. Otherwise, the UI UX is sitting on an island somewhere.
Yeah. So how do we create infrastructure for content creators that want to be product reviewers of Loop to create content and distribute it all across Africa, and a monetization model for them to get paid anytime someone sees that content and drives utilization on Loop.
That's interesting.
Okay.
So that's your BHAG.
So when you look at it that way, then we are not just building a product, we are creating an ecosystem that essentially becomes the platform or the rails that other stakeholders, other investors, other innovators that are concerned with digital financial services also have an opportunity to tag along with us as we expand into Africa, but also execute profitable businesses that bring back FX into the country.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That is an interesting strategy. So at this point in time, you're at the beginning. In how many countries are you currently in? Whether it's Loop DFS or your mother, your holding company.
Loop DFS, actually, now speaking commercially, we execute in two different modes.
Okay.
B2B, that's going to the end user through partners.
Okay.
And also B2C, where we go to the end user directly with our own channel.
Okay.
The platform, the technical operating platform that enables all of this is Loop.
Okay.
As I explained earlier, it's the same team, it's the same platform that runs Empower in Tanzania, More Cash in Ivory Coast, and it's the same platform that is also running Loop in Kenya. But those are B2B executions.
Okay.
The B2C execution, the platform, we have used the same go-to-market brand. So Loop is the go-to-market brand for our B2C execution.
Okay. I got you.
But when you're going to the market through other partners, then the end user does not see Loop. But the platform
but the underlying
behind,
platform behind
exact same,
is Loop.
Is Loop. The same platform. Sorry, at times I get lost with...
That's okay.
Remind me, I'm trying to come back to the essence of your question.
Basically, you've answered it, because my question was around what's your big, hairy, audacious goal for
Okay,
Loop?
great.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks for prompting me.
Yeah.
So, on the B2B model today, we have 65 million users across 5 markets in Africa.
Wow.
Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Ivory Coast.
65 million users.
Correct. We have registered, we have also, beyond those 5 markets, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Ivory Coast. So Anglophone and Francophone. We also have set up recently in Ghana and at the final stages of getting our financial services license.
In Ghana.
That'll be the 6th market. We are also at very advanced stages of market development. Market development meaning understanding the market, understanding the economic profile of that market, understanding the regulatory profile of that market, and figuring out our go-to-market strategy. That work is well advanced for DRC, for our neighbor Ethiopia, and probably a step further back, we are also looking at Nigeria, which is a very important market. We just need to be sure we find the correct door.
I was going to ask you, why is it that Kenyan banks have avoided Nigeria?
I will not say I've avoided. I think if you look at banking all across Africa, from a return to equity perspective, Kenyan banks are actually doing very well. Okay. Which to me speaks to they've made wiser decisions as to where to invest. Banking penetration is not yet fully solved in East Africa. It is actually far worse outside of East Africa. But when you look at the cost of doing business, the ease of capital flowing in and out, which is a major consideration for an investor, then you have to take a very balanced approach of when
Can't
and
argue,
how
can't argue with
to
that.
enter these markets.
Can't argue with that.
But I was coming back to the markets that we're going to. So in total, we are looking at a scope of 10 markets.
Okay.
8 of them are
Over
already.
what period?
By this year, we should Loop B2C should be in another 3 markets
Okay.
in East Africa. 4 markets, including 1 outside of East Africa. By next year, we'll be closing the second round. Earlier by Q2 of 2024,
Okay.
we'll be closing another 4 markets. So that's 8 committed markets to another set of 4 markets, which we're still debating which are the ones that best present the best opportunity. In total, if we're to hit these 8 markets or 10 markets, Loop will be in a market or a geographic area that is occupied by 500 million Africans. In those 10 markets, 3 of them have been amongst the top 10 fastest growing economies in the world. It is also the region with the youngest population.
Correct.
So from
19.5 years median age,
yes.
in Africa.
So the profile of service, the nature of service we're looking to invest, the go-to-market approach, choosing to be not just mobile first, but technically mobile only, is really the direction to go, and it's a message that we'll also be beginning to talk to investors about.
Okay. Eric, thank you so much. I mean, that has been a very interesting conversation. We're about to wrap up now. Time is not on our side. I have one last question for you. Something that we have discussed quite a lot in the circles that I move around in. And this is about digital transformation in the financial services sector and how you get the balance right. How do you continue acting like a bank with your fiduciary and prudential responsibilities, while at the same time become as nimble as a fintech that is not necessarily regulated by the central bank? But even as I'm saying that, we all knowing that everybody is now going to have to come under the ambit of some regulator. But the fact of the matter is that fintechs have shown themselves to be a lot more nimble in relation to banks. But NCBA seems to have found the right balance and made the right move at the right time in terms of saying, okay, this baby now is NCBA DFS Limited. We are delinking it from the bank. Is that what has happened?
Yes.
How has that change been internally? And what are the learnings for not just the banking sector, but industries that are looking at transformation?
I think I know enough to answer that question.
Yes.
But probably not enough to advise everyone.
Correct.
So probably let me just tell our story.
Correct.
How did we go about
Yes.
it? As a narration, not as advice.
Yes.
The fact that we were birthed from within a banking group is actually the greatest advantage. Now, some would argue because of ease of access to capital relative to other fintechs, but actually not. A good idea will always find capital. The greatest advantage for us is actually having to have had inherited very strong governance.
Critical.
I argue you only move at the speed of trust.
Critical.
So yes, you might be able to build very quickly, but without governance, you can't fund quickly. Or as some argue, slow is fast. Yeah. So getting the right governance, putting in the right corporate structure, ensuring that you have organized yourself and your processes in ways that if you are called a fintech or you're called a bank, you will pass any regulatory hurdle. Getting governance right is actually
Is critical.
It's critical. It's your license to operate. Once you've gotten governance right, I think what has made us relevant to millions of customers in multiple markets is because we have focused on not building the best product or the shiniest objects, but rather serving up the best utility. Now, utility means there's a school of thought that says every product, the customer hires your product to perform a service, even if it's a physical product.
Correct.
So I've bought this water for the service of quenching my thirst. I've bought the iPad to serve my note-taking. And if I use this, for instance, one can argue a regular notebook can do it.
But this is also convenience and nimble
convenience,
and stuff.
storage, search. There's so much more.
Correct.
So it is not the physical device. It is
the utility.
The job it does for me. So if you listen in to some of our meetings, we start design with what is the job to be done and for whom. So we first get the job right, then ask yourself, okay, what are the pains that we need to eliminate in getting that job done? What are the gains that can be added onto whilst getting that job done? So I think starting with governance, get your governance right.
Solid foundations.
Yeah. Then always start with what is the job to be done and for whom. And it's only because of that you're able then to see, you're able to launch and gain traction because you're doing an important job for an identified customer. So those two are really important. But then, of course, that is very summative. It doesn't tell the whole story.
Yeah.
You then have to think about how fast you're building an employer brand that attracts the best talent.
Yeah.
And ensure that when these people come to lend you, because they're actually just lending you their intellect, their energy, their creativity.
Correct.
You're providing the environment for them to feel like they belong, providing the environment for them to feel like they are also growing, whatever growth means to them from a career progression point of view.
Yes.
So I would say those three are really the most important
I like
aspects.
that term, employer brand. I like that term. Eric, thank you so much.
Asante.
We have come to the end of episode 1, 2023, AliTalksTech.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
You'll at least allow me to squeeze in what's coming.
Absolutely.
And,
Please proceed, Eric.
I'd actually argue there's enough in it for another AliTalksTech.
I shall make sure that I invite you in the next couple of weeks.
Certainly. So I think we've taken an approach that has also drawn some critical feedback.
Correct.
With regards to putting out features that to the user feels like they're not ready.
Yes.
Actually, a lot of the features that you're seeing are fully ready, fully built. The content hasn't come in. So, for instance, Discover. Discover is a feature where that's what you find at the middle of the bottom bar, where a user can search merchants, can search deals, and so on. And once we launch the merchant experience in the end of month, March, then merchants will be creating deals, will be creating campaigns that users can then find on their platform. Buy now, pay later. I think that's a whole industry that has developed around that.
It's huge.
But we are executing it differently. The current execution, I would say, is merchant-led, where you can only find this benefit of lipa kidogo kidogo.
So a marketplace.
It's a marketplace, and you choose how you want to pay. You choose for yourself whether you want to pay weekly, or whether you want to pay monthly, whether you want to pay in 3 months. So the user configures the deal for themselves, as opposed to this is the product.
And you've created this developer platform for merchants.
Yes. So actually, merchants now speaking to Discover, merchants will have a platform. This is not for developers, but for merchants.
Yes.
Where they come and say, okay, I am targeting this profile of customer. I want to offer them this And these are the mechanics. Either it's a discount or it's a coupon.
Okay.
So they set that up.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
On a self-service basis. Yeah. So as I was saying, we are building
So that's coming.
a digital mall. It is coming, but what is actually not there is the content. But the build is already there.
Okay.
So as I was saying, I'm just teasing a few of the things that are coming.
Yeah.
But certainly enough content for a whole show. You'll be able to digitally set up a foreign currency account, buy, sell.
Digitally set up.
Digitally.
Without walking into a branch.
Once you've done the KYC, it's the same KYC for a local currency account as a foreign currency account. But of course, as I was saying, we have to get governance right.
Yes.
You will be able to send money to your brother in the US. Again, just from Loop, all you need to know. Or receive. And all you need to know is phone numbers. And it is settled instantly to either a bank account or a mobile money wallet, wherever they are.
Wow.
We'll be introducing features to help businesses do trade. So I want to order for a bag of potatoes or a truckload of potatoes from Tanzania. Where is there a mechanism for me to send the money? But it's held in escrow until those potatoes are delivered, which is a good thing for the guy selling you the potatoes. He knows I can release my truck. The money has been paid in, not yet available to me.
Nice.
And whether that's a transaction between a Kenyan and a Tanzanian or someone from Kisii to Mombasa, that escrow service again is a job that customers have told us, this is an important job for me to do, particularly as commerce gets more and more digital. So there's a whole host of...
So that escrow thing is super important. However, it just needs to be in the background.
Oh, yes. So, yes, design, you because at the end of the day, what is escrow? You just need a trust agent. So we are the trust agent. The two businesses speak to each other. And you either activate escrow or not. So it's just an on-off toggle.
I get you.
Yeah.
I get you. Eric, thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Really appreciate your time on this. Asante sana.
Thank you, Ali.
Guys, there you have it. We are closing this first episode for 2023. You'll be hearing a lot more from AliTalksTech, but this has been an important conversation for us to have. Thank you so much for listening and for watching this episode. Asanteni sana. So Loop is on every app store. Go to Play Store, go to your Apple App Store and download Loop Consumer. Great. All right. Cheers.